Good afternoon and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission in the City of Tyler. Our first item is to call the roll.
Pamela Phoenix.
Here.
Jimmy Reed. Here. Beth Whitney.
Here.
David Dobbs. Felicity Reedy.
Here.
Blair Swaim.
Here.
Jeb Jones.
Here. The Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council. Any item approved today will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, July 24th, 2019. If you've received a notice for this meeting, you have also received a notice for the City Council meeting. Subdivision plats are approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission solely unless there's a request for a waiver of escrow fees or construction. Only the City Council makes financial decisions. If any item is denied, the applicant has 10 calendar days to file a written appeal with the Planning Department. The appeal will then be acted upon by the City Council. If you are here to speak for or against an item, when that item is called for review, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission should only be made from the podium. This will ensure that the comments will be picked up on the microphones and will be recorded as part of the official record. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less, although extensions of time may be granted by the chair upon request. The next work session will be held July 16th and is open to the public. It will be held at City Council Chambers. Right here. All right. Next item on our agenda is consideration of the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. All right, the first section of our agenda contains some tabled items. For us to consider those items, we'll need to remove them from the table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve. Can we do them both at the same time? I'll make a motion we approve both tabled items.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion by Ms. Reed, a second from Mr. Reed to remove both items from the table. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the items are available for review. Kyle?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The two items on the table or that were just removed, P19-007 and F19-037, Seven Hills. The applicant still requires time to address the comments from staff, and so at this time, staff is recommending that the plats be tabled again for another 30 days.
Any questions for city staff?
Kyle, does there appear to be any resolve within the next 30 days? Because this is the second time that
Right.
we've extended for 30.
Yeah, I anticipate that they will.
Okay.
They'll be ready next time for action.
Okay.
Okay. Since both these items appear to be together, I'll ask, is anyone here that would like to speak on either one of these two items for or against?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table P19-007 and F19-037 for 30 days.
Second. We have a motion from Ms. Phoenix to chair both of these items for 30 days, a second from Mr. Swaim. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items remain tabled. Next section we have is our zoning section. First item is PD 19-017. Kyle?
This is a zone change request from agricultural district to planned multifamily residential district to allow for the development of townhomes on a single lot. The applicant is proposing to develop 50 townhomes on one lot, which will have access to McClenny Drive. The adjacent properties to the north and the east are zoned for agricultural uses and are developed with single-family homes. And the properties to the west and south are Zone R2 and PMF planned multifamily and R2 two-family residential district and are developed with duplexes. This request would amend the future land use guide from the single-family low-density to townhouse garden apartment. The adjacent properties to the west and south are currently developed with duplexes and medium-density housing. So the future land use guide does show single-family in those areas, but The actual development in that area is for medium-density housing. The applicant has submitted a site plan that does show the 50 townhome units, ranging from 3-unit structures to 3 to 4 unit structures that will be accessed by a private drive on the property. The proposed density is 9.1 units per acre. Just by comparison, the R2 zoning district allows for about 11 and a half units per acre, while the property, the PMF to the south, which it has 4 duplexes on one lot, is approved at 10 and a half units per acre. So it is it's a little bit less dense than the adjoining properties to the west and south, and is kind of more or less within the if you were to look at if it were to be different lots or parceled out into different lots, it'd be more comparable to somewhere between R1B and R1D. R1D would allow for townhomes, but if this were to be rezoned to R1D, it would be more dense than the 9.1 units per acre. So the property will have a 6-foot tall privacy fence around the property itself, and the proposed setbacks are 15 feet from the front yard, 10 feet from the rear, 15 feet between all structures, and there are common open space areas here. You can see in the middle of the development, as well as at the front or along McClenny Drive. There's some areas there for open space. The requirements for common usable open space are that they're at least 15 feet wide and not at a slope greater than 10%. So those areas should be used for in exchange for some of the smaller yards that these properties will have, or these units will have. The residents will be able to utilize the common open space. Like I mentioned, the proposed development is generally consistent with the approved form of development that we've seen in recent years. The duplexes were zoned 2006. The ones to the south and west, and then immediately to the south, that was approved in 2009. And so you can see that there is somewhat of a trend towards some different styles of different forms of housing in this part of town, and that is generally consistent with the plan to allow for different styles of housing for all different types of life, stages of life within the city for housing options. Of the notices that were sent to adjoining property owners, none were returned in favor and one was returned in opposition. I do want to note that the one property owner that returned in opposition had a caveat in their protest that said that they were opposed to it if they were apartment units. But if they were duplexes or something along those lines, that they weren't opposed to it. And so I do have it listed here, but their opposition was based on apartments, which this is not. These are not apartment units. And then I also received some concerns, some calls from neighbors that were concerned with some drainage issues on site, which would have to be addressed at the time of development, as well as some concerns about traffic. Additional traffic in the neighborhood. And so when we look at the impact on traffic, we look at kind of a peak hour impact, which would be one trip per unit, which would be 50. And that's spread out over an hour, not 50 cars at once, but over an hour. That's 50 cars over an hour. That generally that could be dispersed as people leave their homes at different times. So with that being said, all other departments have reviewed the request and anticipate no significant impact by the proposed request, and staff recommends approval of the zone change from agricultural to planned multifamily to allow for the townhomes.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Questions for city staff?
Kyle, you said that it will be enclosed in a fence.
That's right.
So in order to enter the private drive, will it be gated or?
That's right. It will be gated. There's a gate on the site plan. that allow for it to be a gated development. Yeah, I forgot to mention the applicant, or the applicant's agent is here to answer any questions if you have any of them.
Is it one or two entrances to the property?
It's one.
Is one way
entrance.
in, one way out?
Right.
Kyle, do we know what the future plans are for McClenny Drive in terms of will it be expanded in the future? Like what category of street is that?
Right now, it's a local street. You can see, we do have the master street plan overlaid on this map. To the east, that red line that's going north-south, that's the planned extension of Copeland Road. Coming from the north down, it will eventually go back into Biloxi. And so, at this time, McClenny's not, it's not on the master street plan as a collector street. These things get reevaluated over time, and but the Copeland Road is expected to go through this area, which may open that up to future
So
development.
long-term future, it'll be a through road, through street.
Like-
McClenny is planned to be a through street.
I
To
mean,
Copeland.
it's planned to, there's no plan for it to do anything that it's doing right now.
Okay.
But the likelihood is that as other streets get put in through there, that it may become a through street.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, I have a couple of cards. The first is from Brent Bradbury. Brent? Please state your name and address for the record.
Brent Bradbury, 1537 East Granby Boulevard, just representing the applicant here for questions.
Anybody have any other questions for Mr. Bradbury? All right, thanks for being here. We may call you up later. The next card we have is from Regina Kirby. Ms. Kirby? Thanks for being here today. Please state your name and address for the record.
Regina Kirby, 11105 County Road 2249, Tyler, Texas. My husband and I own the 6 acres right in front of the Lightfoot property. I vehemently protest this. This gentleman said there's no definite plans for a through street. McClenny Drive cannot tolerate 50 new homes. According to his statement, that would be 1 car a minute in the first hour. Therefore, that's 1 car every minute, the way I calculate it. McClenny Drive doesn't have it. It goes to a stop sign. There are duplexes, there are homes that are on 2-acre lots. You didn't include in that plat going farther west. Sherman Clem issued a protest, and it was due to drainage, but someone misinterpreted his comments. Sherman Clem is worried about the traffic. It seems to be a drag strip. It is 1/4 of a mile from the end of McClenny Drive to the stop sign. It's how fast can I go in a 1/4 mile? All right? This property has been in the McClenny family for many years. That's how we acquired it. My son lives farther down on McClenny in a 2-acre lot, which is my in-laws' former home. The gentleman, Mr. Tidwell, has a 6-acre lot just like us. There should not be any development until McClenny Drive goes west and connects to Biloxi. I would be happy with this, but if anybody's ever been down McClenny on trash day, you can't get down the road. There are trash cans everywhere. The drainage is rotten. So I don't have no idea what they're going to do with the drainage. But if they want to build 50 townhomes, that road needs to be addressed and not somewhere in the future. That needs to be set, that needs to be done, and then there should be a consideration for 50 townhomes. This area was not built for that. That used to be a rose farm, okay? My husband and I vehemently protest this because there's no street. And 1 car a minute comes up to the whole hour, you know, being taken up. You can't get out of your driveway. And the trash, people who live in those duplexes to the west of this lot, to the stop sign, and the ones that leave going up to the Lightfoot property and the Tidwell property, it's the city dump ground. They'll come pick up my trash. It's bad, and I ask every one of you to go out there and look at that street if you haven't. Any questions?
Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Appreciate it. All right. Those are all the cards I have on this item. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this item for or against?
Kyle, what's the condition of McClenny Drive? Is it curb and gutter?
No.
Okay.
No, it's still, at this time, it's still, from what I can tell, it
There's a
appears to be.
photo of it in your.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you go to the
Appears
photo,
to be-
please?
Well,
Bottom right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it? That's a good.
more similar to a county road standard, still
The
at this
bottom
time.
right?
Mhm.
Okay. So there'd be dedication of right-of-way and an improvement of the street section in front of the development?
Right, the applicant, I mean, they can speak to what their plans are for the road.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if they need to dedicate additional right of way, then they'll have to do that.
Okay. And for any kind of traffic impact analysis, can you reiterate to us and the public that what the benchmark for those things are?
The, by code, the requirement is if the development is to have over 200 peak hour trips, then the requirement is that they do have to submit for a traffic impact analysis or
Okay.
a study. So it's either, it's 200 peak hour trips or 2,000 trips per day.
Okay.
This level of development will not meet that threshold for a study.
And when is that typically determined? During the development phase, correct?
I mean, it can be done at any
Okay.
phase. Typically, though, it's done with the building permit
Okay.
at that time, or sometimes with the plat, so the developer can make any dedications or
Sure.
make any improvements at that time.
Okay.
When we have a site plan, we're kind of locking in the density and the number of units.
Yes.
So at this time, we can tell that it's not going to meet that threshold for a TIA.
Great. Thanks, Kyle.
Kyle, I also have a question about the trash comment. What sort of enforcement do we have about just blocking traffic on trash days? I mean, it sounds like a situation that is not new, that we probably should have a way to deal with that either way. How is that handled normally?
I'm not exactly sure of the requirements. I mean, they need to be near the street so the collectors can pick them up. I'd assume if they're actually in the street, then that might be an enforcement thing to make sure they're, if there's a curb there, I think they need to be up against the curb. If they're not, then they may just need to be out of the street entirely.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not exactly sure what that requirement is. But if it's impeding traffic, if it's impeding the flow of traffic for a 2-lane street, which that's what this is, then it would need to be likely addressed. It might be an enforcement issue.
Did we answer the question what the requirements are for the curb and gutter?
For the developer. Brent, I know this is not the plating portion of it, but
Sure.
what would be the plans there?
It will be
for
curb and gutter along the frontage of McClenny.
For your portion of it?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Bradbury, trash for the development, is it going to be individual canisters or does there plan to be a dumpster
It'll be
or?
individual canisters.
Okay.
And will that
They'll all
be
be
inside or?
self-contained.
It'll be inside the fence?
Correct.
Okay, so all the trash from your development would be inside the fence the whole time?
Yes, sir.
In your private drive, it probably would be to the capacity of a 2-lane street. so that it won't block it for the
And there's
tenants?
an entrance and an exit as well, so a boulevard entrance.
Oh, there's an entrance and an exit?
Yes, ma'am.
So you enter on McClenny
Yes, ma'am,
and you exit on?
McClinton. But it's two-way, divided.
It's got a,
Okay,
got an
gotcha,
island on it,
gotcha.
an island in the middle.
With a gate?
Yes,
Oh, I see.
Ma'am, when you say trash, do you mean just trash that's scattered throughout the road, or you mean trash cans?
Sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, if you would please come to the podium.
I don't have it on this phone, I have it on another one, the trash cans are out in the road, and then there are litterers. And I heard you address how many people and how many units were coming in and out. I don't believe you took into consideration, as soon as you get on McClenny, there's duplexes, there's El Cerrito, there's all those. Have you counted all those numbers that come out onto McClenny? And if he's gonna build curb and gutter in front of that, I mean, I wasn't furnished that site plan when we got this notice. So curb and gutter is at the end of a dead-end road that has no center stripe. It's like a farm road out in Noonday where I was raised. This is not a road. It's like a country road, okay? Everybody rolls their little green trash can and it goes on the street. Okay, I've got some pictures of that I will be happy to send to every one of you. And I don't understand what curb and gutter is gonna do in front of Lightfoot's property. It's gonna be in front of my property, yay. But it's not helping the rest of the street and all the other people who live on this. The people with larger homes weren't notified of this because they weren't within the 200 feet. And I think this is way wrong.
Tell me something, based on how that picture looks of the street, there's a... Well, I think it's in front of my son's house or my property. It should have come back to the stop sign and gone. You see that right there? That's near the Lightfoot. You see those right there on the top right? Mm-hmm. That's some of the nicer duplexes. I think that's on the Lightfoot on the left, is that correct? Top left?
Bottom left, I'm not sure.
What's top left, my property?
I'm not sure. I didn't take
I'm
that.
right across the street. Okay, my question was, based on the street that's showing McClenny, there, it seems like, shrubbery or whatever on the left side, trees on the right. The trash cans, you said that they're... That's not in front of the duplexes. As soon as you turn on McClenny Drive off of Cambridge, that's not an accurate view of how it looks. You going south. You take
Okay,
a
ma'am.
left.
Understand, there's kind of an enforcement issue of what city code is going to be with the existing developments that are there, and we're trying to
Well, that's
decide.
not an accurate view.
I understand. We're trying to decide what to do with this newer property and what impact it's going to have in the situation. So from a trash perspective, this is all going to be contained within the fence for this particular property.
But it's correct, but it's not gonna take care of the 50 cars coming out in an hour. That street needs to be extended to the east to go to Biloxi to accommodate
Right.
all, and there's El Cerrito and all the, and Garrett, to accommodate all of those duplexes that are existing. The street needs to be extended and made into a normal city street before any townhomes are added, is all I'm asking. You know, let's get our street in line and then develop it.
Understand. All right. Thanks, Ms. Kirby. Thanks for being here.
And where does McClenny to the west, where does it connect?
It connects into Cambridge Road, which is actually being,
That's the border, the right border?
No, over here, where it connects to the west.
the back.
Oh, what?
So so yeah, it does connect into Cambridge Road to the west, which is a collector street, which is actually underway for improvements as,
And this is the dead end?
it's underway for improvements. The extension of McClenny to the east happens with development. If they develop further to the east, they'll need to put in a street, and then you can see that someday it may eventually connect into Copeland Road if development happens faster than that can be put in, or that's put in with development as well. And the question about the 200, trips within the neighborhood, I did count how many units there are. There's about 110 units within that would access onto McClenny Drive. With this, it'd be about 150, 160, give or take. And so even factor in this with the existing development, that is less than the 200 peak hour trips. So the existing, impact, there are some units there already that are developed that do generate traffic. Even with this, it would still be under 200 units.
Kyle, can you tell us what's incumbent upon the developer in regards to development of their property and then street? Sometimes that can get a little confusing about what the developer's responsibilities are.
I mean, they're responsible for improving their half of the ultimate cross section. So if it's a local street, 55-foot right of way, then they would need to provide so if the street is 24 feet across right now, they would have to provide the additional pavement on their side for the overall 28 feet. So they would have to do that, and as well as put the curb and gutter in along their frontage.
Okay.
So that would apply to what's in front of their property, not down, off-site. Those items should have been addressed when those developments were constructed.
Okay. Thank you.
And do we know if they were? I mean, how old are those developments?
El Cerrito is more than 20 years old. Garrett, half of Garrett is probably that old too.
So probably not.
They've been there a while.
Yeah, they've been there a long time.
Right. Okay.
All right, any other questions for city staff?
Mr.
Yes, sir.
I'm Monroe Kirby. I'd like to ask
Please come to the microphone, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Monroe Kirby, 11105 County Road 2249. That's my wife.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Kirby.
Okay.
Thanks for being here today.
The land, I knew it when it was farmland. Just nothing out there. All right. We've got 5 acres across the street from this development that's been in the family for over 100 years. And the property is pretty well ruined. My parents built that a home on 2 acres back up McClenny there, and then it got surrounded by duplexes. And my way of thinking, we sold it to my son. My son lives there now. But my way of thinking is that the whole area has been just totally trashed and ruined. All right, we're sitting down there with 5 acres. We're talking about this guy developing this 50 townhomes, and we're talking about traffic. All right, if we come in here and say we want to do something with our 5.5 acres down there, which we've already given the city, we gave the city a strip of land across the front there on the street for sewage and I guess whatever. There's a sewage line, I think, running down through there. In any event, my question is, if we come in here and say, hell, we're sick of all that area down there, we want to sell ours for $500,000 like this guy did, or paid for it, and y'all come in here and say, well, too much traffic. There's too much development out there now. You're on a dead-end street, we're going to leave you on a dead-end street. How's that going to work?
Yes, sir. Normally, the more development there is, the more opportunity there is to improve the roadway. Normally. I can't promise in every case. But just like what we're saying in this case, what the developer is going to have to do for his part of the road is he's going to have to bring it up to speed with current standards. And so any new development would do the same thing, which would improve the roadway. And so it's normally handled at that time as opposed to
So you're saying, what are you saying, that I would be responsible for building up a road out there? I mean, we gave the city.
Normally it's the developer. So in the scenario that you gave, hypothetically, it would be the new buyer of the land.
Well, I mean, we gave the city over a half acre, I believe, a strip across the front of our property. And if, like I say, if we come in there to develop and come, file an application, I don't want to come down here and hear a bunch of people say, oh, well, there's too much traffic, y'all can't develop. We've been down there forever. We've owned this land for, like I say, it's been in the family for a long time. So we're going to end up being the ones that everybody comes along and says, well, there's too much going on down there now. Y'all can't develop it. Is that what's going to happen? I'd like to know now, up front.
Yes, sir, I understand. Now, we can't bind what any future decision is for any future commission
Well, I mean,
or city
you just
council.
take a look at it. Is
But
that where it's going to end up?
That property all around there, none of that is planned to remain ag property. Okay, so the
Ours
future
isn't
land use
ag
guide.
property.
So is it zoned? What's it zoned now, Kyle?
It is ag.
It's zoned agricultural.
So I'm talking about
His
not
is,
you.
yeah.
I'm talking about the
Ours is
original
not
zone.
zoned agriculture. We're
So-
paying taxes on it.
Right. So
Yeah.
the future land use guide does not show that as remaining ag. Is that correct, Kyle?
That's right.
So the future plan for the city of Tyler would not keep that from happening. Would not keep.
Me from developing my land.
Correct. The future land use guide actually shows that as being something different than ag. As something that could be developed
It's
into
not
something
ag, we
else.
don't have it on ag, yeah.
Right. So it's just it's a zoning designation. And so, we've got zoning, and then we'd have plating, and then the actual development, and there's various requirements
In
at
fact,
each
I don't know what
step.
ours is zoned. You've got that there?
Yeah,
It's agricultural.
I think it's zone ag. That's zoning is agriculture.
It's a zoning, it doesn't get into your tax exemption status, it's just
This is just the city
the
zoning.
zoning of the
Okay.
property.
And so a lot of land that gets annexed into the city over the years originally carries an ag zoning designation.
Well, as far as the extension of McClenny, and I've heard nothing but except real vague in the future type stuff. I own a piece of property that's a mile on 155, a mile from the loop. You could chunk a rock from the loop 323 to the city limit sign. I'm right outside the city limit sign. And they've told me for, I don't know how many years and years and years, that they have plans to provide sewer and all that out there. They haven't done it. So you're talking about McClenny Drive. Is that gonna be 10 years from now that we finally get a road that goes on through?
Again, a lot of
Nobody's got a plan?
a lot of the street and road decisions, they aren't made as part of this particular commission. And so we can't speak on someone else's behalf. So I don't want to tell you something that I have absolutely no control over. That it's just going to be a different process.
But if it remains a dead-end street like it is, in fact, talking about the garbage people coming in down there, I don't know if that'll change it if this goes through. But what they're doing right now is going down to the end of the road, which that's our property down there, making a big circle with a dump truck or with their garbage truck over onto our, there's no turnaround down there. They just come on, and it's just a mud hole, when it rains. And there's no, the city hasn't done anything as far as providing for, the proper street for even that, for the garbage that's out there right now. So, anyway,
Thanks
that's what
for
I gotta
being
say.
here. Let
I
us
don't
know.
wanna come down here 5 years from now, 2 years from now, or whatever, and ask for an application, be trying to develop my property, and y'all say, no luck.
I understand. Thanks for being here, Mr. Kirby.
Sure.
So Kyle, I do have a question. The developer, and it's just on their side, correct? They're
That's
just
right.
responsible for the curb and gutter on their side. So to the west, these are 20-year-old existing developments. How does that get built?
I mean, the current strategy is if it were to get on a CIP list, capital improvement list, then that would be how that would typically go or be implemented. McClenny Drive, last I checked, is not on any CIP list for things like that.
But future
But
development can
as
cause it to
future
go up
develop-
on the priority list.
Sure, that's true. And as future development happens, on the north side, I don't know the ultimate build out for those properties on the north side. But you may see a situation where a fair amount of that street gets improved with development.
Mhm.
And then the cost for the rest of it may not be so great.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Any other questions for city staff?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve PD 19017.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Reedy, a second from Mr. Reed to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Next item is Z19-015. Ronnie?
Good afternoon, Commissioners and everyone present here. This is a zone change request from R1B Single Family Residential District to INT Institutional District. This property is located north of the intersection of East Lake Street and Magnolia Drive. The applicant is requesting the zone change to allow for campus office uses with the required parking. The property to the north and west are zoned R1B and is developed with single-family homes. The property to the east is zoned INT and R1B and is the location of Tyler Junior College and also some single-family homes. The property to the south is zoned RMF and R1B and is the location of a student housing for TJC, and also it has some single-family homes. This request is indeed consistent with the future land use guide, which identifies this property as high-density mixed use. The applicant is requesting this to convert the existing residences that is present to office spaces with required parking for TJC. This zone change request is indeed aligns with the goal of and the recommendation of the Midtown Area Development Plan, which says that to expand INT zoning in appropriate areas associated with the TJC. That's the aerial view. Out of the 14 notices that were sent, 2 were received in favor and none in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of this zone change from R1B to INT.
Thanks, Ronnie. Any questions for city staff? All right, I do have a couple of cards on this item. First is Ray Boudreau. Let the record show Ray Boudreau with Brandon Corporation at 1321 South Broadway was here for questions. We also have a card from Mr. David Hudson. Mr. Hudson. Welcome back, please.
I just can't resist. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is David Hudson. I live at 412 Rose Circle Drive in Tyler. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today in support of this item, and I'd be glad to refer any questions that you might ask to Ray. And Thrani's done a great job with this item, and we thank her.
Excellent. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Mr. Boudreau. Thank you, Mr. Hudson.
You should have one for Mr. Hudson.
Well, he said that he deferred, so I'm listening to the man.
Yes.
Mr. Boudreau, so aesthetically, the houses will remain, just adding parking. Is that correct, or do you have any kind of concepts?
Not at this time, but TJC is planning to go in and remodel the 2 houses into usable office space.
Okay.
So there will be upgrades made to the houses so they look a lot better than they do now.
Okay, so not raising them, but
No, not-
actually keeping the aesthetic. So
Right.
kind of maybe like an AR
Exactly.
style look.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau.
Thanks for being here today.
Will the parking be on the street? Or will it kind of?
No, there's actually, of the 4 lots, the middle one between the house on the corner, and there's actually a vacant lot already, and that's where we're going to put the parking.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks so much. All right, is there anyone else here that'd like to speak on this item for or against?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we approve Z19-015.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Reed, a second from Ms. Whitney to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is approved. Good luck with your project. Next item is Z19-017. Ron?
This is a zone change request from Agricultural District to RMF Multifamily Residential District. This property is located east of the southeast intersection of East Grande Boulevard and Pollocksy Drive. The applicant is requesting the zone change for a multifamily development. And looking at the zoning, the property to the north, south, and west is zoned AG and is undeveloped. And the property to the east is zoned AG and R1A and is developed with single-family homes. This would amend the future land use guide from single-family medium low density to multifamily. That's the aerial view of the property. This property is, as I said before, is located along the East Grande Boulevard, which is a major arterial. The applicant is proposing a multifamily development, and according to the Unified Development Code, they could have up to a maximum of 24 dwelling units per acre. This proposal is also aligned with the Tyler First goal of providing sufficient housing to all income levels and also all stages of life cycle of people. Out of the 13 notices that were sent, none was received in favor and 1 in opposition to the request. That brings up to the protest calculation of 19.15%, and that's the property that's to the east. The opposition has stated that this request is not consistent with the surrounding properties and also expressed concern about existing water issues in the neighborhood. Staff would like to note that the East Grande Boulevard has a mixture of zoning from commercial to industrial and multifamily and also agricultural districts. And also to point out that, let me go back to the zoning map. The property that's adjacent to the concerned property owner is zoned INT and is the location of East Texas Academy, Christian Academy. And with regards to the water concerns, the water services would be provided at the time of development. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval of the zone change from AG to RMF.
Thanks, Ronnie. Any questions for city staff? I have one card for this item. Mr. Priester?
Thank you. Mark Priestner, Planning Concept, 3815 Old Bullet Road. I'm not trying this on.
Cam's not working.
Oh, what? I can't do it. Let's go the old-fashioned way. This is the property that we're talking about where we're up on Grande. As Grande was put in and Grande is being developed, if you go up and down Grande, there's a new a senior assisted living. There's another school being put out there. The hospital went out there with a clinic. You know, there's a gas station going on one corner of Biloxi and a car wash going on the other. So a lot of development is now happening out there, which was kind of the intent of getting Grande in and connecting out to 110. This property itself, the green that you can see on here is the wetlands on the property. So we can't do anything in the bottom half of the property, and actually this is going to go to improve. Since none of this can be developed, all this is going to be is detention heading down. There's no access to Roy Road whatsoever, which has always been the concern up and down the road. The guy that is concerned about the water, it's all draining downhill. This will actually help him because this will all be just cleaned up and left as some sort of large detention basin. So we cannot access anything to the south and can't connect to it. So that's the reason why we're looking at doing the RMF up in the top. We've already met with the city on the median cut and have gotten approval on that. So we're just developing really what's consistent with that area and keeping with it being solely accessible to a 4-lane arterial. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Priestner, the property that is owned by the developer, does it go all the way to
Yes.
Roy Road?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so the study that was done on your hydrology aspect, that's probably extent of kind of like a master drainage study.
That is, we had it delineated. That is the actual.
Done it yourself with hydrology?
Yes,
Okay.
That's the actual
So that's
delineated floodplain and wetlands. The wetlands are a lot greater than the floodplain. The floodplain is not that big, but the wetlands are.
Okay. Okay. And so that will be, the green area will be a detention
And
area?
Yes.
And just-
There's no development in that.
No development in that area? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's cost prohibitive to have to mitigate for it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Priestner.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak on this item for or against?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve Z19-017.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Reedy, a second from Ms. Phoenix to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is approved. Next item is Z19-018. Ronnie?
This is a zone change request from M1 Light Industrial District to C1 Light Commercial District. This is a property that's located at the northeast intersection of Garden Valley Road and Northwest Loop 323. The applicant is requesting the zone change to allow for commercial uses on the property. The property to the north is zoned R1B and are developed with single-family homes. The property to the east is zoned PCD and RMF. The PCD part is undeveloped and the RMF is developed with the assisted living facility. The property to the west is zoned C1 and C2 and is developed with retail. And the property to the south is the location of Family Dollar and is zoned C1. This request is consistent with the future land use guide, which identifies this property as neighborhood commercial. That's the aerial view of the property. The subject property is located at intersection of two major arterials, which is the Van Highway and also the Loop 323. The applicant is proposing to downzone the property from M1 to C1 in order for them to have a gas station and a restaurant in place. Out of the 18 notices that were sent, none was received in favor and opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of the zone change from M1 to C1.
Thanks. Any questions for city staff?
So they want a gas station on one side and a restaurant on the other?
They have not told us what their plan is, but those are the two that they have let us know that they're going to plan there.
I hope the restaurant is a Papados.
We all do.
Seriously, let's petition. Any cards?
Any other questions for city staff? Oh, thank you. Okay, I do have a card for this item. Mr. Breedlove?
Maybe a Popeyes, but not a Popeyes.
No Popeyes, no Papados.
Bob Breedlove, representing the property owner with Brandon Corporation here in Tyler. I'm just here for any questions. They've started kind of making a mess out there and realizing that their zoning really doesn't fit what they're wanting to do, so they're coming back and just cleaning that up. Hopefully they'll get started soon on finishing out there.
Originally, you all were going to do storage facilities.
Storage
here,
is
right?
still going on that west side, just to the west of there. It's that planned development over there. PCD, I guess it was.
Yeah, to the east.
To the east?
To the east, yes.
The PCD?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please get a Papados.
That'd be great. I don't know.
You can
Any
tell,
question? Any
though,
other questions
I
for
live
Mr.
right
Breedlove
there.
other than the Papados?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Z19018.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Phoenix, a second from Ms. Whitney to approve this item. Before we, is there anyone else here who'd like to speak on this item for or against? Okay, any discussion on the motion that's been made? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Good luck with your project. Next item.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from the next three items.
Okay,
Please.
Please let the record show Mr. Reed is leaving the meeting. All right, so the next item is PD 19-015.
This is a zone change request from R1B, Single Family Residential District, to PUR, Planned Unit Residential. This property is located at the southeast corner of Baxter Avenue and Woodley Street. The applicant is requesting the zone change to allow for 2 detached single-family homes on the property. The property to the northeast and south is zoned R1B and is developed with single-family homes, and the property to the west is zoned R2 and R1B and is also developed with a single-family home. This request is consistent with the future land use guide, which identifies this property as single-family medium-low density. This proposal is an infill development in the neighborhood. If you look at the aerial view, the subject property and the adjacent property to the subject property to the east is aligned in a different way in the size and configuration along from the rest of the properties in the neighborhood. There is a site plan attached to the zone change application. The site plan shows that the residences would be built facing each other in order to have like an internal arrangement. And also the site plan proposes the garages will not be facing the Woodley Street and also there would be no driveway on Baxter Avenue. There's also a 6-foot fence along the property. The setbacks to the property is 25 feet in the front, 12 feet from Woodley Street, and 6 feet in the interior. Out of the 32 notices that were sent, none was received in favor and in opposition to the request. The staff recommends approval of the zone change from R1B to PUR.
All right. Thanks, Ron. Any questions for city staff? Do you have a card on this item, Mr. Socia? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, David Socia, 15128 County Road 2191, White House, and available for any questions if there are any.
Okay. Our main question asker left the room, so you're off the hook a little bit, I guess.
So this basically is just so that you can build two
Yes,
residences
if you look, it's
in an oddly configured piece of
right. The
property.
lot is large enough that's that could be split in half and still be consistent with the lots in the neighborhood. And so, in order to do that and still adhere to the setbacks, it was virtually impossible. So we had to go to PUR, and so we will have common space in between. So you can see the drives coming off of Woodley, and so we'll have common space in between those two driveways to actually feel like a planned unit residential area.
Good deal. Any other questions? Is there anyone here that'd like to speak on this item for or against? Thanks for being here, Mr. Socia.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve PD 19-015.
Second. We have a motion from Ms. Whitney and a second from Mr. Swaim to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Good luck with your projects. Mr. Reed, I believe, will stay out. Is that?
Okay.
I think he'll stay out for the next two items.
Okay.
The next item in our plats section is F19-050. Ronnie?
This is a plat for the previous zoning case that we just got approved. It's a 2-lot subdivision containing approximately 0.27 acres located at the southeast corner of Woodley Street and Baxter Avenue. The purpose of this plat is to subdivide the property into 2. All the staff comments have been addressed and staff recommends approval of this plat.
Any questions for city staff?
What's that little part, the Ronnie, to the left? A little slim.
It's
It's
the
a plat.
right-of-way dedication.
Okay.
For
Above the
Baxter.
street.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, and this is this a final plat?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I do have a card on this item for Mr. Socia. I assume it's very similar to the last one. Just let the record know Mr. Socia was here to answer questions for this item as well. Any questions for Mr. Socia? Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item for or against?
Make a motion, we approve F19050.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Reedy, a second from Ms. Phoenix to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Plat is approved. Next item is F19-039.
This is a 5-lot subdivision containing approximately 1.04 acres of land located at eastern intersection of West 10th Street and Kennedy Avenue. The property is currently zoned R1A, Single Family Residential District, and the purpose of this plat is to create 5 lots. All the staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
Any questions for city staff? All right, we once again have a card from Mr. Socia here for questions. Any questions for Mr. Socia? All right, we also have another card on this item. Travis and is it Joe Carroll Lennon? Is that right? Feel free to come up to the podium and come talk to us. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Joe Carroll Lennon, and I live on 2218 South Kennedy Avenue. We've been residents there since 1973, raised 4 children, and we have some questions about the way they drew out this map and how it might affect us.
Sure.
Our lot is Lot 1A, Block 709N, and we had already made some decisions to go ahead and sell our house when we started getting this information because it's no longer senior friendly. And we do need things that are senior friendly. There's certain things that we can do now, certain things that we are not able to do now. And I'd like to know how this is going to affect me and
Sure.
and in regards to selling our house.
Okay. Kyle, do you have any comments here, or Ronnie, on, this is basically a platting item, so this particular process that we're deciding today is about whether or not the plat that they have submitted for approval, which is what we have up here on the screen now, if that plat meets all of the requirements to be a plat and to be filed as a final plat.
Well, see, our
in the
house
city and county.
it was owned by the construction, contractor, like that, and it's a 1A, and you're going to change it to 2B?
Well, the zoning, this is not a zoning case. So all we're looking at today is the plat. We're just looking at basically what you see on the screen here and basically where there's more to it than this, but where the lines have been drawn and the other information that's included in this plat. So it's an official document that gets filed. And so there are certain requirements for that plat to be approved. And if those requirements are met, we're actually required to approve it. So that's why we're here. All we're dealing with today is whether or not this particular document meets all the requirements to be a filed plat.
Currently, our house is homesteaded, and it's been like that for years. But also, there's an age requirement that is included in that, and certain disabilities.
I understand. Yeah, ma'am,
So,
this particular item
where do I
deals more
where do I
with-
take my questions now?
That's a good question, so.
Well, with the.
Because I don't want to change from a 1A to a 2B, that's for sure. Not
Okay, this
before
is
we
not
sell
a
it.
zone, the zoning
Yeah.
is not on our
Yeah, I think
agenda today.
some of that is because this was rezoned last month from R1A and R1B, and so that might be what you're referring to, but that's been approved already by City Council. So this is just to allow for the property to be subdivided.
But not our property, right?
Not your property, no.
Correct.
Okay.
No, this doesn't impact your property. This is your neighbor's property that they're looking to develop into to 5 homes. Mr. Sosha is here. You may want to talk to your neighbor about what they plan to do with their property and see how that may
Would it be the
impact you.
neighbor to the back of me or the one to the side of me? Or can you say?
I'm not
To
sure.
the north.
I'm not exactly sure where you are.
Are you to the
but-
south of this?
I'm the, okay,
Well, it's Mr.
there's
So-
a lot to my, one's,
Yes, she's to the south.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here, and this one here there's one behind me that it faces, is it Robertson?
It's gonna, yeah, Mr. Sosha, the gentleman that was just up here, he can, you may chat with him to see, what his plans are for the property and,
If somebody gives me the information, I'll be glad to do that.
He's right there. So
Right behind you.
right after
Okay.
this meeting, it'd be a great time to talk to him. So.
But you don't have to
Okay.
worry about.
He's really nice. He'll talk to you.
You
so.
don't have to worry about your zone being changed on your property unless you come in and do it.
Right.
Okay.
So you don't
okay.
have to worry about
I feel
that.
much better,
Yes,
Good.
ma'am.
but I still have some questions I might want to ask you.
Sure,
Yes, ma'am.
absolutely.
So,
No.
thank you.
Glad you're here. We love it when people come to our meetings, so
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for being here. All right, is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this item for or against? Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve F19039.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Phoenix, a second from Ms. Whitney to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. All right, let's ask Mr. Reed to re-enter the meeting. All right, let the record show Mr. Reed has re-entered our meeting today. Next item is F19-053.
This is a one-lot subdivision containing approximately .12 acres of land that's located on Broadway. This property is currently zoned C1 Light Commercial District. The purpose of this plat is to create one lot. We are still waiting on the applicant to address all of the staff comments, so the staff is recommending tabling this item for 30 days.
Thanks. I don't have a card on this item. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak on this item for or against?
Make a motion, we table F19-053.
Second.
Okay, for 30 days, is that
Yes.
staff
Yes.
recommendation? Okay.
Yes.
And
Second.
all right, a motion for Mr. Reedy, a second for Mr. Reed to table this item for 30 days. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is tabled for 30 days. Next item is F19-051.
This is a 6-lot subdivision containing approximately 6.17 acres of land. It's located at the southeast intersection of Bellwood Road and Whiteside Road. The property is zoned M1, and the purpose of this plat is to create 6-lot. And even in this plat, we are waiting on the applicant to address all of the staff comments, and the staff is recommending tabling this item for 30 days.
All right, I don't have any cards on this item either. And if anyone here would like to speak on this item for or against?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table F19-051 for 30 days.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Whitney, a second from Ms. Phoenix to table this item for 30 days. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is tabled for 30 days. Next section of our agenda is the consent plat section. Does anyone have any desire to address any of these particular items individually?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Reedy, a second from Mr. Reed to approve the consent plat agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent plats are approved.
Okay.
We stand adjourned.